Jermod McCoy is Tennessee's bright and shining star at cornerback, and is coming off of an injury with the hopes and talent to be CB1 of the 2026 NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. We're getting into some of the more high-profile cornerbacks in college football ahead of the 2025 college football season and 2026 NFL Draft. Jermod McCoy, star corner out of Tennessee, coming off of an injury suffered earlier this year. May not start the season. We'll get into his game. A.J. Harris, the talented corner from Penn State, and then D'Angelo Ponds. Is he a nickel? Is he an outside corner? We'll have all that discussion in just a minute. But before we can get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Jermod McCoy, a lot of hype around this young man out of Tennessee, transferred from, I believe it was Oregon State. Man, some of these schools just lose top tier talent, man, because Damian Martinez transfers, Aiden Childs transferred, Jermod McCoy transfers, and he had a good season last year, Keith, for Tennessee. He targeted 62 times. He allowed 31 catches all season, 4 interceptions. He made plays on the football as well, and he just was a guy that was able to. He had 6 pass breakups. He's listed at 6 foot, 193 pounds, and I led off with it. He tore his ACL early January. He was at home training. It might have been either before the playoff game or after the playoff game against Ohio State and everything. He was just, training at home, tore ACL and everything. He ended up getting surgery really quickly and whatnot. So word is that he should be good. He should still be able to play this year. He may not start the first couple games of the season, which typically a lot of these teams, I gotta look at their schedule, but a lot of these teams put cupcakes on the schedule. So you don't really need, if you got cupcakes on the schedule, you don't really need them right out the gate. But Keith, he reminds me a little bit of Quinon Mitchell in terms of like the instincts, zone eyes, the feel for space. Like I can't remember which game I was watching, and he played the high-low concept so well, and then he passed off a route, made the quarterback think he was taking it like it was match man coverage. Quarterback throws, I think it was a corner route, and he just bounces back off and veers off and intercepts it and takes away the 7 route. I think he had, was it a game? Is it not the game-ending interception? He had a big interception against Bama, against Ryan Williams in the red zone. He's got the ball skills. He's got the strength and everything. Fluid hips. Like against Jeremiah Smith, there was a play where Jeremiah's trying to run. It looked like maybe an out and up on him. So he attacks outside leverage, tries to get to the blind spot. Jermod flips his hips, runs with them, zone turns, and carries him upfield and doesn't get beat vertically. So like you see the size. He's a willing tackler in space and everything. And that's why I'm hoping that he can come back and return and not have to go back to school. Because I think this is a young man that if he is healthy for at least majority of the season, especially down from midseason to the backstretch, maybe they make a playoff run, he could be CB1 in this class.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think there's a want to kind of see more, if that's the conversation, right? Like, and I agree with you. Everything else, like I also think, you ask me my synopsis. This is a guy that can play man, can play zone. Yep. Like, they talk about flipping his hips, being a fluid mover. But I think and you tell me if you're wrong, right? And we have a couple other guys too to go through. A.J. Harris from Penn State and D'Angelo Ponds, right? If he's CB1 DP, where do we place that amongst the overall rankings, right? Like, and what I'm saying is we've been through classes, right? We've seen top tier talent. We've seen the Derek Stingleys, the Patrick Surtains, the JC Horns, right? And I asked myself, is he of that ilk? And I'm just not 100% sure at this moment. And I think that's why I want to leave it as like I want to see more, because it's there's one thing to be the best in your class, and then there's one thing to be one of the best ever. So with Jermod McCoy, I do believe, obviously watching a few of the corners in his class, he's of the top tier talent, right? I think now it's placing him of first round, but where? Overall rankings, but where, right? And we've seen it's almost if, and what's the best way to explain this? Like, let's say last year's class, right? You had Travis Hunter in that class, right? And he would, but like, let's say if Travis Hunter wasn't there, would the conversation have been Benjamin Morrison being the number one corner, right? And does he go number one overall? I mean, not in the first round overall, because he gets pushed up because he's the best corner. And I know we still had Will Johnson too. I was just using Benjamin Morrison for an example, right? Like, just as things kind of go and as they're fluid. But I agree with you. I like Jermod McCoy. I've seen enough ball skills. I think he made his statement game, as far as what people will remember, was the Alabama game, right? And I think him playing the fade route against Ryan Williams, like you said, and just making a play on that. And then I think that kind of got eyes to him. So it's more plays to be made for him, and I'm excited to see him. And then also I want to see if he can play some nickel, because from his size and his quick feet and quick twitch, I think he can kind of do both, right? Like push inside, stay outside, things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. He definitely can. And I think that's why he's such an intriguing player, because of the versatility he brings coverage wise. And I think the one thing one question, of course, coming back from the injury, how quickly will he get up to speed? How quickly will he get to trusting himself? You know what I mean? And planting and cutting and being the fluid mover, just, maneuvering the way he's used to. And does it have an impact on his long speed and everything? Which I think the long speed is fine. I don't think he's not a top tier, like vertical, like runner, straight line speed guy. So it's going to be like, all right, how, like, that's what comes out. Okay. Because I mean, Quinon tests like 4.3, you know what I mean? But like, so Quinon's a better athlete than him, but I see a lot of similarities between the two. And we just, we watched Quinon be drafted, top 15, top 20. And I went out there, was out there. I've been playing lockdown defense, lockdown coverage for the Eagles. You know what I mean? For their defense. So I think when I look at Jermod getting healthy, and whether it's week 7 or 8, like Tennessee, I think Tennessee still has a chance to make the playoffs. That offense is going to put the quarterback in the right positions. They have enough defenders on that team. They can run the ball. They'll put enough pressure on teams to be able to make plays. But if Jermod McCoy can return healthy, it's going to be really big for him. Just overall, again, everything's there for him. And I think that's why the ACL sucks, Keith, because I think he could have been a lockdown corner this year. I think he could have really hit, like, stamp himself, especially in the SEC, where you're going to face Ryan Williams again. You got Zachariah Branch in Georgia now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was going to see his, like, LSU. Like, if you end up like seeing LSU, you got to deal with Barry and Brown or Nick Anderson. Like, he was going to have those opportunities. And again, I didn't look at their schedule to see who they play or when they play those teams, but I just hope that he can return back to full form this year. Because granted, it was in January. Like, so that was 6 months ago, right? That was 6 months ago. The season doesn't kick off until late August. So by the time the start of the season, he'll be 7 months removed from surgery, like almost 7.5 months removed from surgery. So looking forward to seeing him eventually take the field, Keith. Looking forward to seeing him take the field, because I think he could be CB1 in this class. But if he's not healthy and he does go back, there's some other guys that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. Let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. And was that last year before last, we thought we had a top corner coming out of Penn State with Kalen King, right?
Yeah.
And I heard you say, "Oh, like, oh, yep, I remember that process."
Forgot about that.
But the year before, we had Joey Porter, man. So Penn State is trying to
Yeah.
push them DBs into the NFL. Let's talk about defensive back corner AJ Harris for the Penn State Nittany Lions coming up next.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale. It's annoying. Only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Even more annoying. Live music should be about making memories and not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Man, talk about making it easy. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. AJ Harris, 6'1", 185-pound corner out of Penn State. I believe he's going into his true junior year. He was initially a Georgia recruit, went to Georgia, played for Georgia a little bit in 2023, transferred out to Penn State last offseason and had himself a pretty strong year for those Nittany Lions last year, Keith. Coming off a season, targeted 46 times, 26 catches allowed, 1 interception allowed, less than 300 yards in coverage, 3 pass breakups. And some of the things I jotted down, just for strengths. This guy plays, we talked about it with McCoy, right? Being healthy, can he get back to playing his ball, but can he play inside? Like, can he consistently play both inside? Now, watching AJ Harris, he plays both outside and in the slot.
Yep.
He's got a quick trigger downhill. He clicks and close very well. Patient in terms of playing in press coverage. I like how patient AJ Harris is. Like, he's not a guy that's like trying to be overtly aggressive where he's sloppy and different things like that. Like, he's patient. He times his punches well. And he times them based on how the receiver releases, how they attack, how they come off the line of scrimmage. And then he's a matchup fluid guy too, because again, at 6'1", 185, when you hear that, you don't typically think, okay, this is a guy. He played against some tight ends. Like, he played man-to-man coverage in the slot against some tight ends, and even like reduced down when the tight end was a third man in the trip set. So I like what he brings. I think the athleticism was there for him, the instincts, like I said, the ball skills. I think there's upside for him to make even more plays on the football. He's a guy that he technically, I like what he brings from the process, because his process breeds good results. When he triggers downhill, he's punching the ball out. He's attacking the hands. He's fighting through the body of the receiver. And those are the type of things that translate well to the league, because, hey, listen, you're not going to always be able to just attack the ball. Like, you got to learn how to get through the body of that receiver. And if your arms can't reach the ball, break their hands up, separate the ball, separate their hands at the point of the catch. So he does all those things well. He doesn't mind tackling either. I think it was Oregon. I was watching that game, and they threw they set Tez Johnson up. They threw like a smoke screen or a wide receiver screen, and he was playing off. He was playing like probably 5-6 yards off.
Yep.
And he triggered downhill so fast that I don't think Dylan Gabriel accounted for him being able to get there.
No.
That he beat the block and then just lit Tez Johnson up.
I didn't account for him getting there, and I was just watching the film, right? Like, I didn't account they would be there, but I agree with you, DP. This is a guy that, in order to make those plays, right, you almost have to be not even flat-footed, right? You're on your toes moving forward, like you have to. So it's either extreme film watching by him, right, to know that these things are coming, or you're definitely dealing with an aggressive corner. And I look at, if I'm teams and I run zone, right, whether that's cover 2 or things like that, he's a guy for me at the end of the day. And I think for AJ, if you tell me if you agree, now it's going to be about everything that has nothing to do with tackling, right? It's going to be about, hey, we're playing man. can you run and cover? Because the flash plays are in tackling, but DP, I always say this, right? That if you need a corner that could tackle, get you another linebacker, right? That's how I feel. That I appreciate corners tackling, I really do. But the bread, your bread is buttered, right? You make millions of dollars, and go back to it, the Derek Stingley's, the Patrick Surtains. You as a corner, you get paid to cover, and so. I think that's where there's going to be the threshold for him is like, hey, can you cover these guys or these wide receivers that you're playing? But I'm all on board with him, and he may be a guy, DP. Obviously, he can play both. And we talk about playing corner and playing nickel and things like that. He may playing nickel. Like you may say, you know what, I can go full board with this, like sliding them inside, and then because you know that you're going to have the run support with him, right? Like this is a guy when you're drawing up the defense and you're running a 4-2-5 or anything like that, right? He's playing a nickel. You can rely on him to be an insert, right, for the defense. Like you can give him a gap, like, hey, you're responsible for the C gap, and I think he's gonna fill it, right? And he may not make the tackle, but he gonna cause some confusion at the end of the day. And the reason I say he may not make because he's not that big, but he's gonna cause some confusion. So AJ Harris is somebody I think can do a lot of things, and it's gonna be fun as far as the insert for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and he played, of course he plays. They played a very mix and match defense. They played zone, they played man, he played off, he played press, and now it's just more so for him, especially in the Big Ten. Is you got receivers in the Big Ten you got to deal with. Of course, everybody knows Ohio State has probably the best receiving core in the country, but Oregon is in the Big Ten. You know what I mean? And they got receivers. You got Elijah Surratt over there at Indiana, and now he has a quarterback with Fernando Mendoza coming in that's probably going to feed him the rock consistently this year, getting him probably close to 1,200 yards and being one of the best receivers in the Big Ten. So you're going to be tested in the Big Ten with the quarterback play improving. Of course, bringing in the teams from the Pac-12 that they did was very strategic. Bringing in the right teams from the Pac-12, right? You look at our guy. You got Washington, Denzel Boston at Washington. We just talked about Jacoby Lane from USC a couple weeks ago. Like the Big Ten's got some legitimate wide receiver talent, and depending on who he faces and when he faces them, you're going to get tested. Now, how do you handle that? Especially when him being 6'1", 185. Like Denzel Boston and Jacoby Lane are both 6'3", 6'4 corners, 6'4 receivers.
And Boston is a bigger body guy, right? And I think that's the point you're about to get to.
Yep. Like, how do you handle the physicality? Like, how do you handle, like, remember when Roger McCreary came out of Auburn, and one thing we loved about Roger was like, he understood, I'm undersized. I'm not playing this game with you.
Yep.
I'm not getting up to the line of scrimmage, shooting hands, hand fighting, wrestling at the line, because you're going to toss me out the way and overpower me. Like, no, I'm a soft press you. I'm going to stick in your hip pocket. I'm going to make it as difficult of a rep as possible because I'm going to be a gnat in a sense. Now, he's taller, longer limbs, stuff like that than Roger McCreary, but it's just the understanding of how to deal with the size, the differentiating size. And do you play into their game where a Denzel Boston wants you to come into the line of scrimmage, be physical so he could clear you and get open into his route immediately? Or do you make him work for it and have to be more nuanced and detailed and stem work and footwork and things like that to be able to get you out of his path?
Yep, I agree 100%. DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, and we are going to Indiana. The Hoosiers. We're going to Indiana. We're not just the Hoosiers said they're not just a basketball school, DP. They put football prospects out there. We're going to talk about Mr. D'Angelo Ponds coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. 5'9", 170-pound cornerback D'Angelo Ponds. Keith, I'm gonna tell you right now, I like this kid, man. I like this kid a lot, Keith. Like 60 targets, allowed 32 receptions, had 3 interceptions. I believe he took 1 to the house for a pick 6. This is a tough, gritty like just corner, man. He's one of those guys. I think about the San Francisco 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers. He fits those teams because he's a physical, even though he's undersized, he battles. And on the season last year, he allowed 263 total yards, like three interceptions. He had 7 pass breakups. He only allowed 1 touchdown in coverage, and it was against Washington. He had the pick 6. It was a wide receiver screen, and he's a versatile guy. And I'm gonna say that like Ponds is not going to be an outside corner for most teams. He's going to be a slot at 5'9", 170, which is fine. Like he tackles well. There was a play against Washington. I was watching him and Jonah Coleman, the running back, and Jonah Coleman bounces outside to his side, and he takes on the action. He's not afraid to get physical, to throw his body around, even though he's 170. But the way he played Denzel Boston in that game on the outside, I was like, because he got a pick in coverage against Denzel Boston. They tried to go route, tried to throw like a big fade down the field, and everything. He's playing like chest to chest, hip to hip, and he's watching the ball. He's got hands on Denzel Boston. You think in your mind, you're like, well, Boston should go up and get this. And Boston, they both go up at the same time, but he goes up, and I think his ability to climb, I think he's probably going to test with a good vertical. Like he got up there, but he knocked the ball away from out of Boston's hands, and then the concentration to double catch it on the way down, secure the interception. And I'm like, he's instinctive. The play where he caught the pick 6, he's in a slot, and it's like he snuffed out the screen. Like he snuffed out I think they tried to throw like a bubble screen or something like that to the slot, and he just kind of reduced his alignment and jumped it and got right in the backfield, picked it off, and then took it to the house for a touchdown. He reminds me of because he played for the Steelers and the Bengals, Mike Hilton.
I was just about to go there. That was the name I was about to bring up.
It reminds me a lot of Mike Hilton. And I think, depending on how he measures, because he's going to, again, 5'9", 170, guys, he is going to have to play slot. Like for, I would say, 90% of the league. There might be some defensive coordinators that say, you know what, I'll play you off, like, and different things like that, because like I said, he does tackle.
You know who consistently drafts, I guess, quote unquote, undersized corners? The Cincinnati Bengals. And I have to pull a depth chart up, but it obviously Mike Hilton played for them, then Cam Taylor-Britt, and then I feel like there was one other corner that they drafted that's on their roster. They drafted I think in the past 2 years, and they're just a team that I guess, and you know what, it might be the kid from the young man from TCU.
Tomlinson.
Yeah, I think they drafted him too, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, maybe they in every obviously franchise, defensive coordinator, head coach, whatever it may be, right? Like they can look at it from a different perspective, and they might value quick twitch and explosiveness, right, from their DBs more than they value just overall size, right? And we know that's what comes with, because usually as a undersized corner, it takes a lot to be able to stand out and make it, right? To get people to overcome the overall size situation. And all of those guys, they did have the scrappy type of vibe to them. And I could see D'Angelo Ponds having the same thing. I think it's for him, man, because you watch these corners, like even like a Mike Sanders still, right? These guys can be straight up ballers and go anywhere from the Trent McDuffie range, where you're talking about the back end of the first round, to fall into the 4th, 5th round based off of his size. I think, and even remember just this past year, Jabbar Muhammad, right? And he went undrafted, and Jabbar was a baller. Jabbar could play football. So I think for D'Angelo, if we're talking about summer scouting heading into the season, right? It's about him. He's gonna have to get his hands on the football and make plays, right? And give teams a clear opportunity to say, you know what, that's a position for him, right? Like we can place him there inside our defense.
Yeah, and I mean Trent McDuffie, granted he's like 2 inches taller, right? Yeah. But Trent McDuffie came in and didn't start out wide. Like he was in the slot, I think, early in his rookie year with the Kansas City Chiefs, and then he eventually worked his way to playing outside and became one of the best corners in the league. You know what I mean? And like to your point about Jabbar had everything, the footwork, the technique, the instincts. The problem was, okay, Jabbar, you're small, and then he didn't test well. So it was like, but I think with Ponds, I think he's going to test good enough to where he ends up getting drafted. It's going to end up being, where does he get drafted? And I'll say this. You turn that Ohio State tape, he played Jeremiah Smith pretty well too. Mm-hmm. Like he covered Smith well as also. I think Smith started to figure him out a little bit, that like when he's bailing out, he gets on his high horse very quickly to be able to like just turn and run and like bail technique. And Smith will like, comeback routes, curl routes. He created good separation because how sudden he was able to stop and work back downhill. So that's something that Ponds has to kind of figure out within himself. But yeah, I think this is a guy, like I said, I like him a lot. He's going to be a slot for most teams, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Most teams try to live in nickel personnel anyway. And when you have a nickel that's fearless to be a +1 in the run game, to tackle in space, but then also have the ball skills, 7 pass breakups, 3 picks. Believe he had a drop pick or 2, and he had a pick 6 for a touchdown. Yep. Yeah, like this is the type of guy you want to have on your team because he can make the plays in a position where, like, the nickel is become that premier position now.
It has,
like not just like the slot receivers, but you taking number 1 wide receivers. We've seen the Bengals say, okay, let's put Jabbar Chase in the slot. You already can't deal with him when he only has really one go. Now he's got 3 access points to free grass. Like, how do you deal with that? And it was like, well, we don't, right? Like Justin Jefferson, same thing. We're seeing George Pickens came into last season, said, I want to play in the slot more. These star wide receivers are understanding, screw being on the sideline with these talented corners who can arm bar me and try and eliminate me from the rep. Put me in the slot and give me some more space. Let's see how they deal with me, right? And I think but it goes back to that, to that age-old conversation of Sherman versus Revis. And I was always a Revis guy because I need my corner to travel. If I move you if they move the number 1 guy to the slot, if you can't move in the slot at all, that's a problem for me. You know what I mean? But if I got good slots, I'm fine. But still,
we like corners with passports, man. You got to be able to travel. I need you to hop on a plane and travel country to country with those wide receivers, especially in today's offense. And I agree with everything you said about D'Angelo Ponds. I'll say this, DP, looking at the 3 corners, Jermod McCoy, AJ Harris, D'Angelo Ponds, we have I think the best word is interesting. We have an interesting cornerback class to kind of unfold and see where these guys play. And they have another year to put out another resume. Yeah. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all gonna talk to us because we can talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, we're going to keep talking about corners on tomorrow's show. AJ Terrell's younger brother, Avion Terrell, for the Clemson Tigers. Clemson has so many NFL draft prospects on their defense. Avion Terrell is another one that has first-round buzz. And interesting comp that I'm going to tell you guys about from a scouting buddy of mine.
Is it his brother?
In the league. No, not his brother. But it is one of the guys who's been one of the better cornerbacks in the league for a while now. So we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.